All right, so let me explain how this class is structured and how I grade. 1304 is the second semester of art history, and we have four different things going on. You're going to be taking exams. The beast that you see there, that's the research project. And then we're going to have some activities. And then you'll be turning in lecture notes and taking quizzes. So the exams are worth 40% of the grade. The research project is worth 20% of the grade. The activities are worth 20%. And then the lecture notes and quizzes are worth 20%. So let's take a look at the exams of this class. The first exam, I reduce the percentage of that or the weight of that to 10% because the first unit exam is usually the one that the students score lowest on, as everybody is getting used to how I teach, how my tests are. So then unit 2 is worth 30%, and unit 3 is worth 30%, and then unit 4 is such a big unit. I broke it up into 3 smaller tests. So, unit 4 does equal to 30%. All right, so the activities for this class, there's going to be 3 activities. There's going to be a library assignment that's associated with your research project, the Beast. And then we have a couple of other outside assignments. This is the Tableau Vivant and the Grand Manner Portrait. I'll give you more details about these later in the course. All right, there will be lectures for this class, and so you will take notes during those lectures, and you'll turn in your Unit 1 notes, Unit 2 notes, Unit 3 notes, Unit 4 notes. And then there's only 10 chapters in this semester, so there'll be quizzes for those chapters. And then all of these together, the notes and the chapter quizzes, will comprise of the 20% of your lecture notes, readings, and quizzes. And the quizzes are based on readings. There'll be more information about that. You'll be watching a lot of videos in this class. I've recorded all of my lectures. If you go to a college class for a full semester, there are 48 hours of class time that you're sitting in class listening to lecture or whatever the teacher, the professor is doing. I have calculated the number of hours that all the lectures add up to. It adds up to 36 hours. The Beast is your research project, and the research project is worth 20% of your total grade. All of these previews are parts of the final product, and this 1% is when you turn it in early and let me look at it, and I'll get it back to you, but then you'll turn it in again as the final product. I'll explain this in more detail later. I have instructional videos for each and every one of these assignments, so that's about a little bit more than 2.5 hours of watching videos. And then one of those assignments requires you to watch some other videos that I've made about the elements and principles. All right, so now let's look at how the Beast is graded. So I've divided it up into what I call our previews. All right, so and the intention of a preview is to keep you guys on track so you're not trying to do this all last minute. And so I have these due dates for each one of these. And you notice that the percentage that they are worth is quite small. The real heavy weight of your grade on this research project is in the final product. Getting that turned in and doing well on that is what is most important here. All these things are going to get turned in with the final product anyways. It's just turning it in on time, keep those grades up. Here's how I grade each preview. So the preview is basically you've done these short little assignments and you've turned it into me, and I'm going to look over it and make sure that it's okay. I'll draw corrections on it. So if you turn it in on time and you give me an honest effort on it, I'll give you full credit of 100 points, and I'll make comments, if there's anything that you need to fix. Now, if you turn it in late, you're not going to get any credit, but I'll still make comments on it, tell you things that you need to correct. All right. So you'll get a 0 on it. I'd rather you turn it in late than not at all. Turning it in late allows me to look over it and tell you if you're on the right track. And remember, it's only worth 1%. So, turning 1 or 2 in late is not going to hurt you. But it's a good idea to turn things on time. After I make the comments and point out the things that you need to fix for when you turn it in with the final product, you have the option to turn it back in and with all the corrections made. You don't have to. It's not going to change your grade. If you turn it in on time, it'll still be 100. If you turn it in late, it'll still be a 0. But there are some students who basically are asking me, is this correct? Did I fix this correctly? And so I'll communicate with you on that. What does late mean? If you turn it in 10 minutes late, is that, because it's almost on time. So here's how I'm going to handle turning things in late. And this only applies to the beast. Everything else in the class is a hard deadline. And if you turn it in late, you've missed the assignment, you get a 0. But with this beast or the research project, I would rather you turn it in late so I can look over it and correct it, so that when you turn it in for your final product, you get a better grade. All right, you make sure that everything's corrected. I'm going to give you 23 hours to turn something in after the deadline. So if you turn it in 1 hour late or 22 hours late, and even up to 23 hours, if it says hours right here late, I'll take it. If it says day, as soon as it hits 24 hours, it's 1 day late. As soon as it says day, you won't get credit. So for example, if it's 1 day late or 28 days late, it won't matter. That's how I handle you turning your previews in late. I would rather you turn them in late than not at all. So when I correct these, I'm going to show you the things that you need to fix on your paper. The purpose of this is for you to get a better grade on your final product. And also, it's a little bit selfish for me. It makes it easier for me to grade it. Okay, now, if I put in a grade that says 11.11, contact me, because, there's some big mistake that you need to fix and redo. If you fix whatever it is, you can turn it back in for full credit. All right, that's what the 11.11 means. Okay, I want to talk about, as this is an online class. With my online classes, I get a lot of this. I have students that have a family emergency when something is due, or their technology doesn't work when something is due. So do not wait until the last minute to get things done. Please, I'm telling you now, when you've waited to the last minute and something happens and you're out of luck, I'm not going to have much sympathy, because I've given you this warning now. I've talked to you about this now. Please, please, please do not wait until the last minute. Here's another life lesson. You ever heard of Murphy's Law? If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. So if you are trying to turn something in, chances are, according to Murphy's Law, something's going to go wrong. Your computer crashed. The electricity went out because there's a storm out. Immediate family has a family emergency, a medical emergency, and you got to go to the hospital. You got to go somewhere, all right? And you have to turn it in, and you can't because of these things. Murphy's Law says if when you're trying to turn something in, something bad will happen. You won't be able to. So please, please, please turn it in early. And that way, if when you're turning it in early, something happens and you can't, you have time to fix it and turn it in on time. I'm totally aware that sometimes technology does not cooperate. That's why you got to try to turn things in early, so that when the technology doesn't cooperate, you have time to fix it. And I understand sometimes there's a family emergency. I get it. Just turn your stuff in early. That way, if you're trying to turn it in early, you have a family emergency, you have time to get it turned in on time. So please, please, please turn it in early. Do not gamble with your grade in this class.